Yeah.
Y'all can see my screen pretty well.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay, great. Cool. Perfect. So I'm really excited for doing this workshop for a number of reasons, but the top reason is I had the opportunity to, like I said, go through the entire repository of all the different projects within the accelerator, and I was just in general excited to see things like wine, things like I think one of them had to do with Indian mystical metaverse comic books. Anyway, but what I mean to say is it's just really exciting to be delivering this with folks who are actually building things that are for consumer first. So I want to lead this with a quick intro to Hype. So it was founded in 2017 as one of the leading marketing agencies in Web3, and since then we've actually worked with I have to change that number from 150 to 200. We actually worked with over 200 top crypto projects, and we're actually 100% remote. So it's a very exciting place to come to work every day and get inspired by a lot of creatives. And outside of the agency, within the Hype group, we also have the Metaverse Studio, which is something that I'm spearheading, because we wanted to really merge our experience in the agency space with our understanding of Web3 since 2017 to really be able to offer everything from research, strategy, to campaigns and actually execution of it through innovative ways for either heritage brands, so think of like the Nikes of the world or the Gucci's of the world, or in fact brands that are born on chain, which is pretty much all the different projects today at Cohort. So yeah, it's pretty exciting. A little bit about myself. I'm the VP of Brand Innovation at Hype. Like I said, we work usually with heritage brands or brands that are born on chain to help them successfully go to market. Outside of that, I'm also a co-founder of Lemonade, a platform for creators to build communities off-chain and on-chain, as well as Her AI, which is building LLMs for her and by her because of all the different biases that currently exist within the LLM world, and then also the founding member of Network State Protocol. So if any of you are familiar with Balaji Srinivasan, he put out his thesis on the network state, and me and my co-founders have the vision of productizing or platformizing that thesis. So as you can see, wearing different hats, but every time it kind of comes down to the same thing. How do you go to market, whether it's for your own projects or whether it's for different client portfolios that we're helping at Hype? So today's 40 minutes, what they're going to look like is not going to be about how do you make millions through trading, or how can you do a very interesting airdrop marketing campaign that will get me crazy user growth, or nor is it how do I jumpstart my Twitter following from 0 all the way down to 60K. It's really looking at the fundamentals of marketing, of you as founders, the baseline information or that skeleton that you would need before you can go ahead and make your first marketing hire, or you can go ahead and hire an agency like Hype, for example. So it's really about the mindset, as well as looking at a few baseline fundamental things that are needed for you to enter the market. So what I want to do first is maybe like level out the playing field, because maybe some folks have had the liberty of going through an MBA or a bachelor's or even a marketing course when they were going through university, and some maybe haven't because they are product first and engineering first. So I want to maybe take the first 5 minutes to level out the playing field on the introduction to marketing. The slide that you're seeing here, I'm pretty sure you guys are familiar here, but you're really looking at how you have different layers or different iterations of what we call web, right? Web 0, Web 1, Web 2, Web 3. But from a founder or brand perspective, what you're also looking at is how these different layers of technology, the more technologically advanced we're getting, how you're also able to target different demographics based on the product that you're building, and how these demographics or target audiences are discovering products. So for example, someone maybe of my generation would probably either discover a product first, either through a sponsored content on Instagram, or by joining different communities or DAOs where someone is building a product, right? So it really goes down to where your target audience lies in these different realms and how you're essentially navigating it. I love this quote by Philip Kotler. Those who don't know, he is the OG guru of marketing ever to have lived. And he talks about the most important thing is to predict where clients are going and stop right in front of them. And really goes back to what we were talking about here. And just I want to point it out there, just because today we're building products on chain, we're leveraging the blockchain technology, doesn't mean that in the next 10 years your consumers are going to be hanging out at the 4th layer or the 5th layer, which means we have to always kind of keep a mindset of, okay, where is my customer going, or where is my community headed towards, and how can I get in front of them? And at the end of these 40 minutes, we will probably talk about a lot of things. And if there's anything I really want everyone to go away from this workshop, is this: marketing doesn't change. And what I mean by this is you have your 4 Ps: price, promotion, product, place, you have your tactics, you have your metrics like LTV and CAC. You have all of these things that still exist, whether that's in Web 2 era, Web 3, doesn't matter. Marketing as a fundamental doesn't change, but what really changes is what people care about. And I really want you guys to understand this, because we often get really lost in the jargon of Web3 and the semantics, like, oh, we should be doing strategy A or strategy B. That's all fine, but in the end, the fundamentals of marketing won't change. You still need to have a product that has a purpose. You still need to have people who care enough to want to buy that product. And that's really where it all starts. And then you have different tactics and channels that you can reach your desired target audience. So a good example for this would be, I'll quickly go over, is like back in the days in the e-commerce boom, you had a lot of beverage companies who said, well, you know, like beverage, we don't want an online presence because beverages have to be tasted. And as you see today, most beverage companies have their own e-commerce strategy because they realize that as the consumer is getting more and more digitally savvy or online shopping savvy, that's pretty much their de facto mode of purchasing as well as discovering products. So they all need to have an e-commerce strategy. So just thought of kind of drawing a quick parallel to this, because all of you are building products for consumer first. So it is a little bit important to have an understanding that marketing doesn't change, what people care about changes. And today, maybe we're innovating in a specific sphere. In the next 10 years and 20 years, we're going to be again challenged to innovate. And we just have to think about, where is my customer hanging out? With this, I want to lead on to a little bit on building your Web3 identity. And this might be a question that a brand like Nike or Gucci would be thinking as they are moving from a traditional Web 2 sector to Web3. Or it could even be you guys who are thinking, well, how do I build my Web3 identity? Who am I, right? And I mean it more from the marketing perspective. And I think the best way to really categorize is be exactly who you already are for your online community. The beauty of using decentralized networks and blockchain technology in general is that it's such a beautiful technology that makes a lot of things that allows you to do the same thing in a more efficient and a better manner. But does the technology have to be in the forefront of marketing to your end consumers? Not really. Yes, for raising rounds of investments. Yes, for getting the right traction of different partners. But when it comes down to your consumer, they just don't care about the technology as much as they care about the purpose and what you're building. So I remember going through the list of different projects in the CPG Accelerator, and I saw this wine company called Noir, right? And I started thinking, that's an interesting one where the lady is using blockchain. But as someone who drinks wine, I don't care what technology is being used. I just want to be able to have that wine. So I think the easiest way to really categorize is just continue being who you would be if you were to remove the blockchain element. And how do we take that persona and bring it on chain? That is something I would encourage founders to really think about. And in the end, the way to align your identity would be the purpose, why you're building something, with the right people. Who is that person who should be aligned with your purpose? That's where you're going to be building your Web3 identity. The next thing I want to talk a little bit about as well is product market fit, because it's it's actually a topic that I've seen come up a lot, even in internal discussions when we have within Hype, is that we're seeing a lot of Web3 consumer first products that currently don't serve a basic human purpose even. And a good way of looking at it is to maybe categorize it from Maslow's hierarchy of needs. For the purpose of this workshop, let's completely forget the self-actualization part, but if your product is able to navigate between physiological to esteem in any of these 4 realms, chances of you having a higher product market fit is very strong. Think about it from the perspective of the NFT boom, right? So 2 years ago, when we had the crazy NFT market, yes, there were a lot of factors that attributed to projects earning a blue chip status, lots of factors. But in essence, if you think about how a lot of people were fanatic about being a part of VCon, being a part of Doodles, being a part of the Bored Ape Yacht Club, it was because they were able to, these products were able to tap into the need for belonging within a community, friendship, family. Because after coming back from COVID, where everything felt a bit disjointed, this allowed them to finally, you know, like have a community where they could finally belong. And that's what really helped tap in and really solidify. And then you have the 99% of the long tail of NFT projects that died down because most of them were built on speculation and not really about serving a basic human need purpose. So I would really encourage founders to think about whatever product you're building, in which of these realms do they enter? Because once you're recognized, whether it's esteem or safety, we can then, as a marketing lead or a marketing agency, they can just take that specific human purpose and use that to dictate all the different marketing playbooks, campaigns, the tone of voice that we should use to be able to really help you go to market properly. There's also another thing that I've heard a lot of people talk about, that is Web3 currently has a UX issue. It's not entirely untrue, but it's actually, if you're able to find good product market fit, it can actually transcend any issue, including bad UX. And I'll give a very concrete example for this later down in the presentation, because it kind of converges with another point. But I think it's very important to also kind of keep in mind that, okay, what is that basic human value purpose am I building for? And how can I use that element to dictate what my next steps of communication with my community and my lovers, community lovers, would look like? So great, I have my purpose. Now what happens? Building your first 100 lovers. Now, if you're in Web3, if you're fundraising, I am pretty sure at some point of your journey, someone would have definitely told you, dude, build community first. Community is the epicenter of any successful NFT project. Community. You're fundraising, your investors are asking, that's great, what's your traction? If you don't have revenue, how big is your community? What most people forget to understand is you cannot delegate community building. At least the first 100. What I mean by this is not the ones that come after. And I understand that as a founder, you're thinking, oh, I have product to build. I have business development to do. I could be doing so many other things that would help me hit very specific metrics within the business. I'm just going to outsource community building, including getting the buy-in of the first 100 people. And what founders tend to forget is when you have these first 100 people who love your product or aligned with your vision, they are the ones who help you achieve the network effect. So it's very important that founders do the groundwork and not delegate building that initial first 100 lovers. I want to share a small story. When I was building Lemonade about 3 years ago with my co-founders, back then, we didn't have any on-chain element. We were simply an events platform, a marketplace that wanted to connect street musicians with anyone who had a vacant living room, so they could come together, charge a ticket price, and basically offer intimate live concerts. Because it really bothered me and my co-founders to see street musicians all over Europe who were just so talented, but usually getting chump change and not really owning a dignified way of living. And there were so many living rooms completely vacant. So we're like, why don't we make this match happen? Back then, we were completely bootstrapped. We hadn't raised a single round of funding. So obviously, we had a lot of UX issues. Lots of times the app failed, payments didn't go through. What me and my co-founder did is the first 5,000 creators, we personally met and spoke to every single one of them. I was already doing a different day job, and after my work would finish at 6 p.m., I would just walk back home in Barcelona from my work to my home. I'd cross a couple of street musicians, I'd hit up conversations, I would invite them to the house, we would have a conversation, and we would walk them through the app and the vision. And just like this, we were able to build that initial community of 5,000 creators and hosts, who then became the army, the firepower of marketing that we needed, because we, in the end, didn't have budgets. What it also helped us do is, because we were able to build that connection with these first 5,000, we were able to also transcend any of the poor app issues we had. Why? Because for the creators, it was offering them safety by helping them get remunerated. For the attendees, it was offering them love and belonging because they were earning for a social connection, which was not a typical bar or restaurant. And because we were able to tap into these different values, they were more than happy to disregard any of the UX issues that we had or product issues. So I guess all of this kind of goes to say is, you cannot go wrong by having a founder-led community. And a lot of founders tend to forget this by outsourcing community building, that your first 100 has to come from you. And then once you start growing, it completely makes sense for you to delegate that to either a marketing person or someone who is leading that agency function for you. Another example that I want to share on this is a project that we work with the Shalhoub Group. That they are one of the largest luxury retailers in the Middle East. And Nick, he is the head of corporate innovation and also the co-founder of Soulmate, which is Web3, the first ever sneaker brand on chain. And as you can see, he sent me a DM saying, hey, Ipshita, we created an ambassador group. Do you want to be added to this group? Very simple message. He added me to the group. And within a week, he had personally messaged about 70 OG folks who were then coming up on the Zoom call to have that initial onboarding. And then Nick walked everyone through the prototype of the shoe. So really showing that he is actively involved, whereas Nick could be doing 100 other million things at the same time for the company, but to show that his involvement was there was so beautiful. And then just right after, I got a LinkedIn message from another OG members. Instead of saying, hi, my name is X, would love to connect, he just said fellow soulmate, because he felt so emotionally attached to that experience. So all these are just ways of saying that when you're building your initial first 100 community members / lovers, you cannot fast track that, and you cannot fast track building your community. And if you do those 100 community members right, they become the right marketing engine, because then they will have at least 3 friends who will have 3 friends who will have 3 friends to help you kind of create that word of mouth, which will then become that perfect firepower as you're doing all the marketing activations. Now that I have my first 100 lovers, what happens next? You want to be thinking about growing and scaling that community, but then how you do it is very interesting. So this is actually something I picked up from Actionable, which was from one of the reports, which I found interesting. That is, your community is no longer interested in roadmaps with moments that are happening every now and then. That's usually controlled by the brand, but they are mostly interested in an immersive universe with moments happening constantly where your community feels that they're a part of them. And actually, there are some brands that are doing this really well. If you look at Budweiser, making sure that they're every interval, they are going back to the community, driving value, doing something for them, getting them involved. Even on a creator level, if you look at Chili or Blondish, they have been really tapping into what we call is like a sequential engagement, making sure that they're constantly in touch, and inviting their community members into the universe. But let's zoom out for a bit though, but if you think about it, most brands and creators post at least 2 to 3 times a day on social media platforms for just likes and scrolling. Imagine if you could replicate that kind of engagement coming from a brand and creators to a community that's built in Web3 that is desperate to become a part of your ecosystem, get rewarded. That kind of stuff magnifies. So yeah, as you're growing your community, you want to start thinking about how can you involve them, not at sporadic moments, but in small ways, every single action that makes them feel that they are a part of your brand, because that's what your Web3 community wants today. They want to be a part of it. They want co-ownership, co-creation. And as you're building for that, you want to also be building for attachment. And what I mean by attachment here is that feeling of mindness over a product or a service, because data and studies show that the moment you feel that you're attached to a product, chances of you being retained to that product are higher. And also the fact that you cannot stop talking about that product to your friends of friends also helps you achieve higher growth. Now, in Web3, by default, projects are tokenized, right? So it already kind of offers the community legal ownership. But then what about psychological? How do we build it? That's like the main question that everyone's thinking. And really the recipe for this is very easy. Investment, control, and ideology. And I'll break these down one by one. With investment, I think a great example is looking at the Lego or the IKEA example. In the end, Legos are plastic replicas of some of your favorite Marvel characters, or the most famous part is monuments of the world. But then the fact that you spend 4 to 5 hours building that specific model, either by yourself or your friends, makes you emotionally attached to that specific object. Or let's take a look at IKEA, your first ever IKEA bed that you build with your partner when you move in. It has an emotional attachment because you didn't just go and get legal ownership. You invested time and energy to essentially build psychological attachment. Last year, when with Lemonade, we did a very interesting activation with Budweiser. So Budweiser is, well, last year was the title sponsor for the digital festival, the one that happens in Amsterdam and Barcelona. They were here in India. And they were very keen on doing on building an on-chain community. So what we did is, at the digital arena, we helped them secure out a space and created like a real life photo booth. So what you as a festival attendee could do is just go scan your ticket. The moment you scan your ticket, the camera pops open, it takes a picture of you, you can choose a few traits, and then we used power of AI. It generated a quick avatar, which slapped it on a Budweiser frame, immediately minted that as an NFT, and dropped it in your Lemonade wallet. What this did is it captured the mind share of over 9,000 people at the festival and gave them their first ever PFP. And for the rest of their lives, they're going to be emotionally attached to it because it was given to them at a festival where they were having a lot of fun with their friends and getting drunk. And that was the moment where they went and they invested time and they built a very memorable experience thanks to Budweiser. So that's where like the brand kind of won. The second is control. I think Spotify just does this really well, is when you have the ability to curate your experience. So think of like how you're curating your playlists. It really helps the brand give control over to the final community member, wanting to completely customize their experience of in Spotify's case, the listening experience. So can you give up that control? And I think Lacoste does that really well, which taps into control and investment, because their PFP that they the underwater PFP program that they had, it was purely done by investment of members who were constantly voting and had the control over choosing what traits and what colors and what specific things go on in the PFP. And the last one is ideology. So when you're really operating at someone's self-identity level, I think like if you own an Amex card and you know of someone who owns an Amex card, they say it proudly, I own an Amex card. Or if you're an Apple customer, or you know someone who uses Apple, they're like, oh, we only use Apple, is because the brand that essentially kind of like grilled itself into the self-identity level, and the person cannot separate themselves from it. So when you're looking at building psychological attachment, you're looking at time and self-investment, giving a little bit of control for them to curate that experience for them, and helping them operate at an ideological level of really seeing themselves as an extension to your brand. And I want to share a real life example on how this specific company did it. And I'm so happy I'm able to share this, because this mail just came in last week. So as I was building this workshop, I was like, yes, this is perfect, because now I can share a proper example. So Pixelinks is actually a music metaverse platform that's co-founded by Richie Houghton and deadmau5, two of the legends when it comes to electronic music producers. Pixelinks was recently acquired by Animoca Brands, and Chorus is actually one of their newest product that allows, if I'm not wrong, that allows for anyone to submit music samples, and they have these really interesting AI tools that allows you to remix those tracks and then make it your own. So this week is actually Amsterdam Dance Event, which is, again, one of the leading techno festivals in Europe, if not in the world. And what Chorus did is they introduced Hidden Gems, which is essentially a one-of-one track discovery that you cannot find anywhere. And it's a combination of, tracks that are handpicked by deadmau5 and Richie Houghton. And this week, they're basically giving away 100 USBs that include these hidden gems. And what's beautiful is if you're chosen and you're at ADE, you can essentially go and pick up this USB, and also you'll have the rights to remix it the way you want. The reason why I chose this example is because it hits all three of them. Investment, that means if I'm at ADE, I will probably spend 2 to 3 hours transporting, going, making a queue, picking up my USB and coming back. So I've already invested time and effort into signing up and then also going and picking it up. Control. The moment I have this USB, I'm able to do whatever I want with these files because it's mine. I've essentially owned it. And then third is ideology, which is if you are a music fanatic enough person and your circle revolves around that, then chances are you already know who Richie Houghton and deadmau5 are. So you're then able to get bragging rights as to, oh, I'm one of those 100 USB holders from Pixelinks founders. So that essentially starts transcending slowly but surely into the ideology level. So if you look at it, it's just the email marketing campaign. Going back to marketing hasn't changed. What people care about and how they do things has changed a little bit. So it's just an email campaign, but it ticked all these different boxes that got me very excited as a music enthusiast, thinking, hey, I cannot wait to go pick this up at ADE. Now, last in this workshop, that is tactics. We call this the OOO experience at Hype. That is, given where we are today, the marketing landscape has changed in a way that as a brand, if you're thinking of a marketing activation, if you're thinking about even go to market and launching your product, you're thinking of one of the three ways. You're either thinking about an on-chain realm, you're thinking about an online realm, or you're thinking about offline. Offline could be, let's say you're hosting a side event, or you're hosting, let's say, an in-person activation. Online would be, let's say you're doing a KOL-driven campaign across different social media sites. On-chain would be you're rewarding folks for specific actions that they take, or in this case, let's say an airdrop would be like the best way to kind of also for people who know the jargon. So it doesn't matter which one you start with. Your new marketing mix is comprising of OOO, offline, online, on-chain. That means you're going to constantly revolve around one of these three. And once you've tapped into one, you'll transcend into the other, and then you'll transcend to the third one, and you'll keep kind of going through this loop. So think about it from a perspective of, once you have your purpose that we talked about, then you have your first 100 community members or lovers. Then you're thinking about engaging them and building the psychological attachment. Whenever you're thinking about doing a bigger marketing activation, then you're thinking about it's either going to be an offline only or an online only or an on-chain only. So it's going to be one of these three realms. And then lastly, at Hype, we talk a lot about how Web3 transcends tech. And this is pretty much kind of like the gist of this workshop. That is, while tech really is the backbone of everything that we're doing in Web3, it also comes with a multiplier effect of opportunity, culture, and community. And that's what really what we're building today is. So I want you guys to maybe take a screenshot of this, but I'm sure that you'll probably have the recording. So yeah, you can essentially take that there. But really think about these fundamental questions as a founder as to how do you really align your brand's future vision with your 100 lovers, right? How do you build that first 100 lovers? How do you make sure that you're hitting a human purpose? Because once you have this basic groundwork done as the founder, you can basically take this and give it to your marketing leader and marketing agency saying, help me grow. And that's where it becomes fun and exciting, because then we're thinking about, ooh, it's tapping into this specific human need. Let's find an interesting way of activating this need, or like making an emotional connection with this need through a marketing message. So it makes it a much easier and a fun journey for anyone that's taking on the marketing role and to take your product to the market if you have this base level done. And then finally, if at all you guys want to have a chat, if you want to share some crazy ideas, if you want some advice over your product, or just want to know in general a little bit about Hype, feel free to scan this QR code. It will lead you directly to my Calendly. You can book a 30-minute call, or just send me an email. And not just myself, but everyone from our team, from Danny, who's a managing director, Jake, CEO, Emily, who's a VP of marketing, would be very, very happy to help you in your in growing your Web3 ecosystem. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was great. I'm sure folks here have questions. If you guys have questions, raise your hand up, or you can unmute. And maybe just to get us started, there was one point where you were talking about kind of roadmap and kind of what expectations are of just kind of shipping and getting stuff out versus kind of letting telling people this long roadmap. I'd love your thoughts. There's a tool that I use for podcast editing that's pretty popular, and they ship a lot. Like we're 2 weeks into the month, they've already done like 2 major releases and I think like 3 bug fixes in their changelog. But what's interesting is there's almost this backlash of dedicated users that feel like every time I log on, something's moved, or there's something new, or I have to like download an update to the app. And I look at it as like, well, it's awesome that they're continuing to like roll stuff out for the same price, but it's kind of unbelievable like how many people get frustrated with it. The constant, like they feel like it's constantly shipping and things change. Would love your thoughts on like what you think about that, and if you've seen that before, and maybe like suggestions on how to balance that out.
100%. And I think that's a very fair question, Chad. And it's also a conversation probably for the same company, the head of product will have with the CTO, and then the head of marketing, and the head of marketing saying, no, don't change anything. And the product guy saying, wait, it's a very common situation to be in. And I'd say that, man, community, I mean, people will complain no matter what. Like it's very hard to please every single person within your community. But what you do have to kind of prioritize is which one of those are worth kind of, like taking to heart and making sure that you're adapting to that feedback, and which ones you kind of like park aside for a later time. This was something that we faced all the time at Lemonade when we were building, because the beauty of having those 100 lovers close to you is that they help you build a better product, but all that feedback can sometimes be very distracting, right? Because they are like, yeah, but build this, but last time I want you to build, and as a product manager, like, holy shit, what do I do? Or like, what do I prioritize? And it's normal. And that's where I think you, as a founder and the circle of co-founders, you just need to decide, okay, which feedback right now makes sense for us in terms of a product roadmap. Where do we want to go? This is still the vision. How do we get to that vision? And then find a way to communicate that back with the community. But like I said, it's really hard to please everyone. I mean, I'm a part of Soulmates community, and I think this year they've been just giving back. But like every month they're doing either a sneaker giveaway or a jersey giveaway, and people still complain. And I see Nick messaging like, we're the only community that's very, very active right now, and like we're still giving back, but it's normal. It's normal, and you just have to kind of keep your eye on the end goal. Why are you building it? What's the purpose? And just have alignment there.
Awesome, thanks. Questions from the group? Anyone got anything? Or you're all booking your time, your one-on-one time. Well, while folks are thinking, let me share. I was just gonna pull up. Where is it? No, that's not it. Caitlin sent me over. Oh yeah. So we always do a POAP. Let me. I'll just share my screen with some other information. Perfect. So for the folks on the call, or if you're watching the recording here, so this week we do have Raf is going to be talking about fundraising along with information about Pitch Week. That is over on Thursday. And then we have next week, Zenica from Zen Academy will be joining us to talk marketing. We also have a session on innovation with some folks from L'Oreal and Treme, and we have office hours with Montana from here at Club CPG. And then the week after, we kind of start talking fundraising, pitch practice, and getting into Pitch Week. And then here's our POAP for the day. So it is hyped for this, all one word, all lowercase. I will drop it in the chat as well, so folks can see it that are on the call here. But hyped for this, all one word. You can go get your POAP, and that will be good for the POAPs you need for the CPG certified. So wanted to take care of that. Oh, great. If you're not, yeah, we should definitely get you into the CPG Telegram. I'll make sure that Caitlin does that in our chat. Any other questions? I mean, I feel like I could pick your brain all day. We've got a couple of minutes left. Anyone else on the call have something that they want to dig into? Yeah, we've done a couple of calls around kind of community building, and people usually have lots of questions around that. You know, I love this idea of kind of you really have to be hands-on for the first 100. You know, what are some tactics that you've seen founders, like especially today, maybe as it's a little bit harder, kind of things feel like they're waning. You know, are there some things that you think folks are doing well right now to like earn those first 100? You know, is it really like truly one-on-one, like that Fred, you know, that Gary V style, like 1 is greater than 0? You know, I feel like lots of people just want to go straight to email marketing or Twitter or whatever it is. You know, let's say even just in like the last 6 months, like what are you seeing that's either impressed you or you think like is being done really well?
I'd say nothing beats one-on-one, because it's, in the end, as a founder, no one can translate the vision better than you. And the moment you have those, and the moment you're able to translate that vision to those 100 people, they feel it. it's very hard to not feel a founder energy when you're having a conversation with a founder. It's like a lot of founders don't realize, but they have this amazing power that an energy that just kind of goes through. So if you're building in the creator space, so let's say when we were doing Lemonade, I would DM creators through my Instagram personally. Hey, I love your page. I love what you're doing. Can you get on a call? I would love to know more. And make it about them. Don't make it about, hey, I'm building this platform and I think you're going to be awesome. Like, no, just make it about them. Have a conversation, and towards the end, be like, hey, I'm just building this community and this is what I'm trying to do. I'd love to see how we can collaborate. Or if you just want to be a silent supporter, would love to have you, or have you give me feedback. And if, let's say, your target audience is naturally hanging out on LinkedIn, just get on LinkedIn and start messaging people. Send them a connection request with a note saying, hey, I love what you're building. Can we align on sharing journeys? And would love to share what I'm building. So one-on-one, you'd be surprised, Chad, how many founders don't do it. Because also a lot of the products that are getting built are done by technical folks. So this is not necessarily their place of comfort, which I understand. So it might make sense for you to maybe bring on board a co-founder that is your social butterfly. But if it's not, really pushing yourself out there to do those one-on-one meets. And even if you can't do 100, do 50 and ask those 50 to invite one friend that they think would find value in what you're building. And there you go, you have 100, right? But that effort, most of them are not willing to make. And that's what makes me sad.
Fair. Thanks. David, did you have a question?
Just a comment is, first and foremost, that presentation was really well done. And for me, as a founder without a co-founder, that was one of my biggest takeaways. And the reason is although I wouldn't say I'm like a technical founder, it's just that being a solo founder, I have this natural inclination to just jump from one thing to the next. So having a meeting with like my developers and moving on to like, creative, and moving on to like customer service. And it's easy to lose track of that, building that like first 100 loyalists. And it's something I kind of like knew, but it's not something that's always top of mind. And it's certainly something that as a founder, I need to prioritize to make sure that, I'm putting equal effort into that as I'm doing other things as well. So appreciate that.
Maybe, David, another tactic you could think about, and I just thought of it, is if it makes sense to have, let's say, an intern or someone like a supporter that would be speaking, that would be naturally hanging out, or if you're building something in the podcast space, if you're friends with a podcaster and wants to help you, maybe this person understands what you're building and they could be responsible for finding your first 100 and setting up the calls 3-way. So this way you can continue focusing on what you need to focus on the technical aspect, but then your calendar gets filled in with the different podcasters or your potential folks that are going to eventually use your product, because then you essentially remove the layer of needing to do searching. You have a partner in crime that's searching, but then when you're talking to them, you're still you still have the founder face, where you're showing up to the call and building that relationship. So I don't know, maybe that can help.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, it definitely helps with the bandwidth issue and just having someone, like another person being almost a guardrail to make sure that's a priority.
Exactly.
Awesome. I love it. As we're wrapping up, unless someone has, other questions, the question that I've been asking kind of all the folks that have been coming through here is, what's the one piece of advice that you got as you were coming up, as you were starting, during your, you've worked on a bunch of things now, but what's one piece of advice that you were given that you thought was so great that you want to pass along to the group here at the CPG Accelerator?
Founder to founder, you have to recognize when you're burning out.
That's great. No one's talked about that yet.
And I was so bad at recognizing it, right? I was really bad at it, and I keep making the mistake. But at some point, you start noticing the pattern, and like David said, you're wearing a million hats, especially if you're doing something solo. And if you're not recognizing it, but your friends and families are, just listen to them. Maybe take a 2-day pause, but do it, because Wow. I really wish someone gave me that advice and no one did. And I only learned it the hard way every single time.
Awesome. I mean, I love the advice. I hate that you went through that, but it is good to all of us to kind of take a step back from time to time.
100%.
Uh,
And maybe like another one, which I found it incredibly valuable, is when I was building Lemonade, and especially when most of the people here, they're probably all building something that's never been built before. So sometimes you're also hitting roadblocks, and maybe financially you don't have the resources to be able to afford a mentor or to be able to find the like valuable insight. I'm just talking about outside of CPG as well. I discovered this platform about like 3 years ago called mentoringclub.com. And if you just go there, you have probably over thousands of people who are working in different companies, like leading companies in different verticals where they have their Calendly, and they're just very passionate about giving back. So you can just go book a 30 to 60-minute call with them, and you can just talk to them professionally about your problem based on their current position, and they'll help you navigate. And sometimes as a founder, you're so married to the identity of what your product is and who you are that you fail to sometimes look at it from a different perspective, and just having those conversations with professionals helps. So mentoring club really helped me, and it still helps me till date every single time I have a workplace issue. And yeah, recognizing when you're going to burn out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. Fantastic presentation. Really, really appreciate it. I know some of the other folks, we have global folks from around the world that are not still working at 9:30 at night. So, we know that we'll get this up and out to the rest of the teams to be able to watch. And appreciate you kind of being open for folks to be able to connect with you as well. So really thank you for your time today.
Thank you for all your time. See you. Bye.
Excellent. Everyone, have a great day. We'll see you on Thursday.